The pulsing rhythm of a tango filled the air as Vivian DaCosta stepped onto the dance floor, her lithe body moving with a grace that belied her 52 years. Her emerald gown shimmered under the soft lights of the Buenos Aires Milonga, drawing admiring glances from the other dancers. But Vivian's dark eyes were fixed on only one person, her young dance partner Mateo Suarez. At 24, Mateo was the rising star of Argentina's tango scene, his raw talent and smoldering good looks making him the darling of both audiences and critics. As he took Vivian in his arms, their bodies fitting together with practiced ease, a frisson of electricity passed between them. It was a feeling that had been growing over the past 6 months, ever since Vivian had hired Mateo as her dance partner for the upcoming World Tango Championship. As they began to move, losing themselves in the music and the intricate steps of the dance, Vivian couldn't help but reflect on the unlikely path that had led her here. Just a year ago, she had been a successful corporate lawyer in New York, her life a whirlwind of high-stakes negotiations and power lunches. Tango had been nothing more than a hobby, a way to blow off steam after long days at the office. But then came the heart attack, a sharp reminder of her mortality that had left Vivian reassessing everything. In a move that shocked her colleagues and family alike, she had quit her job, sold her penthouse, and moved to Buenos Aires to pursue her passion for dance full-time. It was a decision that had been met with raised eyebrows and concerned whispers. Midlife crisis, they said. She'll come to her senses eventually. Vivian had ignored them all, throwing herself into the world of tango with the same determination that had made her a formidable attorney. She had trained relentlessly, honing her technique and pushing her body to its limits. When she'd heard about the upcoming World Championship, she knew she had to compete. And for that, she needed the perfect partner. Enter Mateo Suarez. Vivian had been captivated from the moment she first saw him dance, his movements a perfect blend of power and sensuality. She had approached him after the show, offering him a substantial sum to be her partner for the competition. Mateo, struggling to make ends meet despite his growing fame, had agreed without hesitation. At first, their relationship had been strictly professional. Vivian was all too aware of the age gap between them, determined to keep things businesslike despite the undeniable chemistry they shared on the dance floor. Mateo, for his part, had seemed content with the arrangement, treating Vivian with a mix of respect and friendly camaraderie. But as the weeks of intense training turned into months, something began to shift. Vivian found herself looking forward to their practice sessions with an eagerness that went beyond professional ambition. She caught herself admiring the way Mateo's muscles rippled under his tight dance shirts, the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed at one of her jokes. For his part, Mateo seemed to be seeking out reasons to touch her even when they weren't dancing, a hand on her back as they walked, lingering embraces at the end of their sessions. It all came to a head one night after a particularly grueling practice. They had been working on a complex lift, their bodies pressed close as Mateo raised Vivian overhead. As he lowered her slowly, their faces just inches apart, the tension between them finally snapped. Mateo kissed her, a searing, passionate kiss that left them both breathless. For a moment, Vivian lost herself in the sensation, her body responding with a heat she hadn't felt in years. But then reality came crashing back, and she pushed Mateo away, her heart racing with a mixture of desire and panic. "We can't," she said, her voice shaky. It's not right. I'm old enough to be your mother, for God's sake." Mateo's dark eyes blazed with an intensity that made Vivian's knees weak. "Age is just a number, Vivian," he said, his accented English low and urgent. "What I feel for you, it's real. You can't tell me you don't feel it too." Vivian turned away, unable to meet his gaze. "It doesn't matter what I feel," she said softly. "This can't happen. We have the competition to think about. We can't risk everything we've worked for because of a moment of weakness." She fled the studio that night, her mind in turmoil. Part of her wanted nothing more than to give in to her feelings for Mateo, to explore the passion that simmered between them. But the rational part of her brain, the part that had made her such a successful lawyer, insisted that it was madness. He was so young with his whole life ahead of him. What could she possibly offer him beyond a few years of excitement before he inevitably grew bored and moved on? The next few weeks were torture for Vivian. She threw herself into their training with renewed vigor, using the physical exertion as a way to distract herself from the emotional turmoil raging inside her. Matteo, to his credit, respected her wishes and didn't push the issue. But Vivian could feel his eyes on her constantly, could sense the longing in his touch every time they danced. As the competition drew nearer, the tension between them only grew. Their performances became charged with an electricity that was palpable to everyone watching. Audiences were mesmerized by their chemistry, unaware of the real emotions simmering beneath the surface. It all came to a head the night before the championship. They had just finished their final rehearsal, both of them keyed up with nervous energy and unresolved tension. As they gathered their things to leave the studio, Matteo suddenly turned to Vivian, his expression serious. "I can't do this anymore," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I can't pretend that what I feel for you is nothing. Vivian, I'm in love with you. And I think you feel the same way." Vivian felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. "Matteo, please," she whispered, even as she found herself moving towards him. "We can't." But her protests were cut short as Matteo closed the distance between them, capturing her lips in a kiss that was both tender and passionate. This time Vivian didn't push him away. Instead, she melted into his embrace, all her doubts and fears momentarily forgotten in the face of overwhelming desire. What followed was a night of passionate lovemaking. Their bodies moving together with the same grace and synchronicity they displayed on the dance floor. As they lay tangled in each other's arms afterward, Vivian felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. But with the dawn came the return of her doubts and insecurities. "What are we doing, Matteo?" she asked softly, tracing patterns on his chest. "This can't last. You're so young, you have your whole life ahead of you. I'm past my prime. Eventually, you'll realize that and resent me for holding you back." Matteo propped himself up on an elbow, looking down at Vivian with an intensity that took her breath away. "You're wrong," he said firmly. "Vivian, you're the most vibrant, passionate, alive person I've ever met. Your age doesn't define you. What we have, it's special, rare. I'm not going to let it go because of what other people might think." Before Vivian could respond, Matteo's phone buzzed with a reminder. The competition. In the heat of their passion, they had almost forgotten about the very thing that had brought them together in the first place. As they rushed to get ready, both of them knew that everything had changed. Whatever happened on that stage today, their lives would never be the same. The World Tango Championship was a blur of adrenaline and emotion. As Vivian and Matteo took the stage for their final performance, the air between them was charged with an intensity that had nothing to do with nerves. They moved as one, their bodies telling a story of passion, longing, and love that left the audience breathless. When the music ended and they struck their final pose, the crowd erupted in thunderous applause. Vivian and Matteo stood there, chests heaving, eyes locked on each other. In that moment, the competition, the audience, the whole world seemed to fade away. All that mattered was the connection between them, the unspoken promise of a future together. They won first place, their performance hailed as one of the most emotionally charged and technically perfect in the competition's history. But as they stood on the podium, accepting their trophy, Vivian and Matteo both knew that they had gained something far more valuable than any prize. The aftermath of their win and the public revelation of their relationship was a whirlwind of media attention and gossip. Vivian found herself thrust into the spotlight, her transformation from high-powered attorney to tango champion fodder for countless human interest stories. Some praised her for following her passion, hailing her as an inspiration to women everywhere. Others were less kind, accusing her of having a midlife crisis or taking advantage of her young partner. Matteo faced his own share of judgment. Fellow dancers whispered that he had used Vivian to advance his career, while others sneered that he must be after her money. The age difference between them was a constant source of speculation and often cruel jokes. But through it all, Vivian and Matteo's commitment to each other only grew stronger. They faced the public scrutiny as a united front, their love for each other evident in every interaction. Slowly but surely, those around them began to see what they saw in each other, not just an older woman and a younger man, but two souls perfectly in sync. As the months passed and the media frenzy died down, Vivian and Matteo settled into a life together in Buenos Aires. They continued to dance, both competitively and for pure enjoyment, their performances drawing crowds wherever they went. But more than that, they built a partnership that extended far beyond the dance floor. Vivian found in Matteo a zest for life that reignited her own passion, not just for dance but for living fully in every moment. His youthful enthusiasm balanced her more measured approach, pushing her to take risks she might have otherwise avoided. For his part, Matteo was constantly in awe of Vivian's wisdom and life experience. She became not just his lover but his mentor, guiding him as he navigated the complexities of his growing fame and career. Of course, their relationship wasn't without its challenges. The age difference that they so often dismissed in private became glaringly apparent in certain situations. Vivian sometimes felt out of place among Matteo's young friends, while he occasionally struggled to relate to her cultural references and life experiences. There were moments of insecurity on both sides, Vivian worrying that she was holding Matteo back, Matteo fearing that he wasn't mature enough to give Vivian what she needed. But for every challenge, there were countless moments of joy and deep connection. They traveled the world together, exploring new cultures and dance styles. They spent lazy Sundays in bed, talking for hours about everything and nothing. They pushed each other to grow, both as dancers and as individuals. One of their greatest tests came 2 years into their relationship, when Vivian received news that her mother had suffered a severe stroke. Without hesitation, Matteo accompanied her back to New York, supporting her through long days at the hospital and emotional nights filled with worry and grief. It was during this time that Vivian truly realized the depth of Matteo's love and commitment. He handled her family's initial skepticism with grace and charm, eventually winning them over with his genuine care for Vivian and his willingness to support her through such a difficult time. When Vivian's mother finally recovered enough to return home, it was Matteo who suggested they stay in New York for a while longer to help with her rehabilitation. This period marked a turning point in their relationship. Living in New York, away from the insular world of competitive tango, Vivian and Matteo were forced to confront the realities of building a life together in the face of societal judgment and practical challenges. They had serious discussions about their future. Did they want children? How would they handle Vivian's eventual retirement from dance? What would happen as the age gap between them became more pronounced? These conversations were often difficult, fraught with emotion and uncertainty, but they also brought Vivian and Matteo closer, deepening their understanding of each other and strengthening their commitment to making their relationship work. It was on a crisp autumn evening in Central Park, 5 years after they had first danced together, that Matteo surprised Vivian with a proposal. As the setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, he got down on one knee, presenting her with a ring as unique and unconventional as their love. "Vivian," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "you've taught me that love knows no boundaries, not age, not culture, not society's expectations. You've shown me what it means to live with passion and purpose. Will you do me the honor of becoming my wife, my partner in dance and in life?" Tears streaming down her face, Vivian pulled Matteo to his feet and into her arms. "Yes," she whispered against his lips. 1,000 times yes. Their wedding, held on the beach in Buenos Aires where they had shared their first kiss, was a celebration of love in all its forms. Dancers from around the world performed in their honor, each routine telling a story of passion, commitment, and the transformative power of love. Vivian's family, now fully supportive of the relationship, flew in from New York to stand beside them as they exchanged vows. As they moved into this new chapter of their lives, Vivian and Matteo faced the future with hope and excitement. They knew there would be more challenges ahead, the realities of aging, the continued scrutiny of their relationship, the balance of their personal and professional lives. But they also knew that together, they could weather any storm. Their love story had become something of a legend in dance circles, a real-life romance that seemed to rival the passion of the tangos they performed. But for Vivian and Matteo, it was simply their life, a beautiful, complex, sometimes challenging, but always rewarding journey they had chosen to take together. As the years passed, their connection only deepened. Vivian, now in her 60s, found herself more confident and vibrant than ever, her relationship with Matteo a constant source of joy and inspiration. Matteo, in his late 30s, had matured into a respected choreographer and teacher, his talent nurtured and supported by Vivian's unwavering belief in him. They faced the inevitable challenges that came with their age difference, health scares, changing physical abilities, the loss of loved ones, with grace and mutual support. When Vivian decided to retire from competitive dancing, Matteo was there to help her transition into a new role as a mentor and judge. When Matteo's career took off internationally, Vivian was his biggest cheerleader, never letting him doubt himself even when the pressures of fame became overwhelming. On the night of their 15th wedding anniversary, Vivian and Matteo returned to the milonga where they had first performed together. The years had left their mark, silvery strands now threaded through Vivian's dark hair. Laugh lines crinkled the corners of Matteo's eyes, but as they took to the dance floor, it was clear that the passion between them burned as brightly as ever. As they moved together to the haunting strains of a tango, their bodies still perfectly in sync after all these years, Vivian felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over her. She thought back to that night so long ago when she had almost let fear and insecurity keep her from embracing the love of her life. "Thank you," she whispered in Matteo's ear as he dipped her low. "For what, mi amor?" he asked, bringing her back up and pulling her close. "For loving me," Vivian replied, her eyes shining with emotion. "For taking a chance on us. For this extraordinary life we've built together." Matteo's response was to kiss her, right there in the middle of the dance floor, with all the passion and tenderness of their first embrace. As the other dancers swirled around them, lost in their own rhythms, Vivian and Matteo stood locked in each other's arms, two hearts beating as one. Their love story might not have followed a conventional path, but it had led them to a place of deep fulfillment and joy. They had defied societal expectations, overcome personal doubts, and emerged stronger for every obstacle they had faced. Their connection, born on the dance floor and nurtured through years of love and commitment, had blossomed into something rare and precious, a testament to the power of following one's heart, no matter where it might lead. As the music swelled around them, Vivian and Matteo began to dance once more, their movements a perfect blend of passion and precision. The years of dancing together had honed their connection to an almost telepathic level, each anticipating the other's moves before they were made. As they glided across the floor, lost in their own world, the other dancers gradually stopped to watch, mesmerized by the display of love and artistry before them. When the song ended, the milonga erupted in applause. Vivian and Matteo took a modest bow, slightly embarrassed by the attention but glowing with the joy of their shared performance. As they made their way off the dance floor, they were approached by a young woman, her eyes shining with admiration. "Excuse me," she said, her voice trembling slightly with nervousness. "I'm Sophia. I'm a journalism student, and I've been following your story for years. Would you be willing to do an interview for my thesis? It's about love that defies societal norms." Vivian and Matteo exchanged a glance, a lifetime of understanding passing between them in that brief moment. Matteo nodded, and Vivian turned back to Sophia with a warm smile. "We'd be honored," she said. "Why don't you come by our studio next week?" The interview with Sophia turned out to be a transformative experience, not just for the young journalist but for Vivian and Matteo as well. As they recounted their story, the initial attraction, the struggles they faced, the joy they found together, they found themselves gaining new perspective on their journey. Sophia's questions were thoughtful and probing, encouraging them to delve deep into the complexities of their relationship. "Was there ever a moment when you thought it wouldn't work?" she asked, her pen poised over her notebook. Vivian hesitated, then spoke softly. "There was a time about 5 years into our marriage when I hit a rough patch," she admitted. "I was approaching 60 and I started to feel old, inadequate. I convinced myself that Matteo would be better off with someone younger, someone who could give him children and grow old with him." Matteo reached out and took Vivian's hand, squeezing it gently. "I remember that time," he said. "It was hard. Vivian tried to push me away, told me I should find someone else. But I knew that what we had was too precious to give up." "How did you get through it?" Sophia asked, leaning forward eagerly. "Communication," Matteo said firmly. "And commitment. We really talked about our fears, our insecurities, and we made a conscious decision every day to choose each other, to nurture our love despite the challenges." Vivian nodded, her eyes misting with emotion. "Matteo showed me that love isn't about being perfect or fitting some societal ideal. It's about accepting each other fully, supporting each other through the hard times, and celebrating the joy we bring to each other's lives." As the interview continued, Vivian and Matteo found themselves opening up about aspects of their relationship they had never publicly discussed before. They talked about the difficult decisions they had made, like choosing not to have children together, a choice that had been particularly hard for Matteo to accept initially. "It wasn't an easy decision," Matteo explained, his voice thoughtful. "I had always imagined having kids someday. But Vivian and I talked about it a lot, and we realized that our life together, our dance, our ability to mentor young people in our field, that was our legacy. And it's a legacy I'm incredibly proud of." They also discussed the challenges they still faced, like dealing with health issues and the fear of losing each other. "The age difference becomes more apparent as we get older," Vivian admitted. "I worry about leaving Matteo alone, but we've learned to focus on the present, to cherish every moment we have together." By the end of the interview, Sophia was wiping tears from her eyes. "Your story is so beautiful," she said. "Thank you for sharing it with me." As Sophia packed up her things, Matteo turned to Vivian with a twinkle in his eye. "You know," he said, "talking about our story has given me an idea. What if we turned our experiences into a show? Not just a dance performance, but a true narrative of our journey, told through tango." Vivian's eyes lit up at the suggestion. Despite being in her late 60s, she still had the energy and passion of a woman half her age when it came to dance. "That's brilliant, Matteo," she exclaimed. "We could use different dance styles to represent different phases of our relationship. The initial attraction could be a fiery tango. The struggles we faced could be a more aggressive milonga." Over the next few months, Vivian and Matteo threw themselves into creating their new show. They worked with a playwright to craft the narrative, choosing key moments from their relationship to highlight. They spent hours in the studio, choreographing routines that would tell their story through movement. The process was invigorating, reigniting their passion for dance and for each other. There were moments of frustration as they struggled to capture certain emotions through choreography, but these were balanced by moments of pure joy when everything clicked into place. As news of their project spread, interest in their story grew. Sophia's thesis article had gone viral, touching hearts around the world. By the time the premiere of their show titled Autumn Spring Tango was announced, it was the most anticipated event of the Buenos Aires cultural season. On opening night, Vivian stood backstage, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and nerves. She felt Matteo's arms wrap around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "Are you ready, mi amor?" he whispered. Vivian turned in his embrace, taking in the face of the man she had loved for nearly 2 decades. There were more lines around his eyes now, a touch of gray at his temples, but he was still the most handsome man she had ever seen. "With you by my side," she replied, reaching up to caress his cheek. "I'm ready for anything." As they took to the stage, hand in hand, the years seemed to fall away. They were no longer Vivian and Matteo, the famous dance couple with the unconventional love story. They were simply two souls, deeply in love, sharing their journey through the universal language of dance. The show was a triumph, moving the audience to both laughter and tears. As Vivian and Matteo took their final bow, the standing ovation seemed to go on forever. But for them, the real reward was in the telling of their story, in the affirmation of their love and the life they had built together. In the years that followed, Autumn Spring Tango toured the world, touching hearts and challenging perceptions wherever it went. Vivian and Matteo became not just dancers, but ambassadors for love in all its forms. They gave talks at universities, appeared on talk shows, and even wrote a book about their experiences. But more than that, they continued to grow and evolve as a couple. They faced new challenges, health scares, the loss of loved ones, the inevitable slowing down that came with age. But through it all, their love remained constant, a beacon guiding them through both stormy seas and calm waters. As Vivian approached her 80th birthday, with Matteo now in his early 50s, they made the decision to retire from public life. They settled into a quiet routine in their Buenos Aires home, still dancing together every day, still finding new ways to express their love for each other. On the morning of Vivian's 80th birthday, Matteo woke her with a gentle kiss. "Happy birthday, mi reina," he murmured, his eyes full of the same love and admiration they had held when he was a young man of 24. Vivian smiled up at him, her heart full to bursting. "Thank you, my love," she said softly, "for everything, for this amazing life we've shared." Matteo helped her out of bed, leading her to the terrace where he had prepared a beautiful breakfast. As they sat together, watching the sun rise over the city they had called home for so many years, Vivian reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. It hadn't always been easy. There had been times of doubt, of fear, of pain. But there had also been so much joy, so much love, so much growth. They had defied the odds, challenged societal norms, and built a life together that was richer and more fulfilling than either of them could have ever imagined. As Matteo reached across the table to take her hand, his touch still sending a thrill through her after all these years, Vivian knew with absolute certainty that she would choose this path again in a heartbeat. Their love story might not have followed a conventional script, but it was theirs, and it was beautiful. "Dance with me?" Matteo asked, standing and holding out his hand. Vivian took it without hesitation, allowing him to pull her into his arms. As they began to sway gently to the music of the city waking up around them, she rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. In that moment, Vivian understood that this love, this connection, this dance that had begun so many years ago, would never truly end. It would live on in the lives they had touched, in the art they had created, in the love they had shared. And as long as there was music, as long as there were hearts brave enough to follow their passion, their story would continue to be told, a testament to the enduring power of love that knows no boundaries.